Humacyte is a short, somebody says. Okay, now we gotta look. Well, by the way, all my models are available on GitHub. So if you jump on my GitHub, you can git clone the directory. It's not that hard to install Git. Git's really important. You don't become a programmer because you're using Git. It's really not that hard of a tool to use. If you're an institution and you really want fine control over your models, consider Git. Everybody can learn to use Git. You don't have to be a programmer at all. It's mostly used for programmers, but I think we should be using it in finance. Because if your analysts change a file, you want to know when and where did that change take place. There's also all kinds of goodies in my Git, in my repo, I should say. Rocket has a big pipeline. One of their drugs is probably not going to commercialize well, but the rest of them, I love Japanese stocks. Humacyte Inc, 119 million shares outstanding. 800 million market cap. Not much cash. It's the kind of amount of cash I'm comfortable with. Most of these biotech CEOs are scared. Revenue, interest, liability. There's a lot of these like, I sold a piece of my revenue. Is that a loan? Kind of, yeah. It's a loan, it's an asset-backed loan, basically. This is one of the things I like to look at in biotech. This company spent $626 million to become an $800 million company. It's a lot of work for not a lot of return. Okay, no revenue. That's all I needed to know. So how'd they sell a product? Since its inception in 2004. Oh man. Could you imagine starting a company in 2004, spending 600 million on it, and it's worth 800 mil, right? So they did a deal with a royalty player such that at least that royalty player thinks they're gonna have a drug, right? Humacyte. Yo, come on. Is this a joke? Is these guys serious? So I will update your website for you, all right? I will literally, I will absolutely do this for you, no problem. Oh my God. Websitepro.com on WordPress? Come on, guys. You got a stale site? You're a publicly traded, near $1 billion company. Oh wait, hold on. This has to be an old site. It's got to be an old site, man. Yeah. Okay, that site is cached in Google. Whew. Okay, so this is called 𝗕𝗏𝗀 for vascular trauma. Okay. Oh, they got a nice little animation there. I'm very stale on web development, actually. So I wouldn't be the right person. A cellular tissue engineered vessel. We were surprised to be notified that the FDA rejected our application. I'm kidding. I don't know if the drug's good or not. Vascular trauma. PDUFA date's coming on. Who said something about a PDUFA date? PDUFA is a Prescription Drug User Fee Act, for those of you who don't know. And PDUFA 3, as well as PDUFAs 1 and 2, but PDUFA 3 guarantees action by a certain date, most of the time. Not in this case. You pulling another rug pull, Martin. What are you talking about? I've never done a rug pull. Crypto's one of those things where like nobody can manage to keep their greed at bay. Nobody thinks for the long run. It's all just like, crypto makes like Wall Street look honest. I used to be upset when somebody bought my stock and sold it like 9 months later. In crypto, man, you can't keep people in your token for 3 hours. So when you file a BLA, usually you have a clinical module, and the clinical module supports your BLA. They don't talk about that anywhere here. So let's find a press release where they do. Biotech stocks are not boring. I mean, I like software stocks too. Okay, here's the Humacyte's BLA included positive results from V005. What? Something about Ukraine injuries. I think this is going to be it for me after this. I'm curious about this. This looks like it could be a short. I love shorting. Software, I mean, they're very different things. Biotech, kind of like the industry of biopharma kind of sucks because of the patent expiry. It's just sort of this fundamental limitation to the industry. Something you have to get over or just come to terms with. You can't get this infinite growth like you can in software. So it's just a fundamentally different business. Sometimes it's hard to even call it a business in a way, in that it's like this, got this duration. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the insurance business. I once was talking to one of the biggest hedge fund executives about this, that in the insurance business, you write a premium and you either pay it out or you don't. And when you add these premiums together, you get a premium book. And there's loan books similar in finance and banks. And in pharma, you're sort of building this pharma book, if you will. And they're basically these discrete cash flows that will eventually roll off, just like a premium book. So there's sort of one way to look at it as financial assets like that. Software is very different, almost like a consumer product or something like that. You can really build up your value over time. In pharma, it's kind of like the bigger you grow, the harder you'll fall when you go generic. So, and we've seen a lot of companies that have had those issues over the years. Okay, so this could be a good example of an old school Shkreli short. You know those mites that pick apart the eyelids? I'm like one of those mites right now. I'm sharpening my 6 legs. Historic synthetic graft benchmarks. Single arm study conducted in US and Israel. 69 patients. You're gonna do a bigger trial at 69 patients? Bruh. Yeah, I'm looking for that FDA approval. How many patients did you study? Submit your dossiers. Here you go. Usually you come with truckloads full of data. How many patients did you study? 69. In like 1 month? No, just 69. I buy puts, I short, I sell calls, I do it all. All right, so gunshots, workplace injuries, car accidents, and other trauma. Saphenous vein, I guess they can take your saphenous vein and use it. I'm not a trauma surgeon. No, it would not be the first approval with a small sample, that's right. Yeah, this could be a short. This could be good money. And the FDA's late on a response? Yo. If I'm the FDA, I'm telling you, go do a 400 patient study. Go get me a real control group. I ain't playing this. Come on, bro. 30-day secondary patency was 90.2% for the extremity patients compared to historically reported for synthetic grafts. Usually when people do the historically supported, there's like there's a little bit of cheating going on. And you can't really do a non-inferiority study. I understand the point that you maybe can't do head-to-head. These are for people who simply don't have an alternative. But there is something called like best alternative care, where it's like, okay, if they can't, you could enroll in that study, you could do like a little bit more intelligent study design, where like half of people get best supportive care and half of people, you give them this technology. Okay, there's no information about the product anywhere? Actually, there's a ton of, maybe it's because some of these are paid. Have they ever published something? So it is a 6 millimeter, 40 centimeter vessel created from human vascular smooth muscle cells, seated onto a polyglycolic acid scaffold, pulsed in a bioreactor for 8 weeks, and the scaffold dissolves. Then it's decellularized. 29 patients underwent limb salvage operation using HAV as a bypass conduit. I mean, it kind of looks like a neat product, but getting approval typically requires a bit of a better study. I'd have to learn this space. These are the kinds of things I tend to avoid. It doesn't mean that it can't succeed. These are the kinds of things I tend to short too. This is a really tricky one. I'd have to do a pretty deep dive. I mean, I think they could get reimbursement if, and it looks like, I mean, from that trial, it doesn't look like it's, I mean, for people who have no alternative, amputation or bust, I do think they have no other vein to use to graft. Usually they'll take a vein from somewhere else and they'll do vascular reconstruction with that vein. And this is done in cabbage and other places, right? So there are synthetic grafts. So that's the thing, I have to learn the space. I've heard of this company for a decade, right? But like I never really got to look into it. I looked a long time ago at a company called Northfield that made synthetic blood, and I shorted that, and it was one of my biggest career wins. It went from like 20 to 4. And it was like a similar dynamic where it was not synthetic graft or synthetic vein, but it was actually synthetic blood, and it didn't work out. Similar stuff like no control, last line patients, but it wasn't clear that they were better off with the drug or not. So yeah, really tricky. I'm like Rain Man, I could just stare at the time and sales, buy, sell, then do a deal.